This meeting will be recorded. If you have any questions for any of the content today, please utilize the Q&A portion. There's a button at the bottom of the screen that you can use, and then our lovely panelists will be able to answer those questions for you. I have also turned on sort of the AI transcripts, so that is available for those who would like to utilize that function. Otherwise, if you have any questions directed towards sort of the running of this meeting or anything like that, you can direct them to me in chat. And yeah, I am going to hand it off to our Director of Research, who will get us started. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Grace. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dan Oliver, Director of Research at the Washington Student Achievement Council. Welcome to our webinar on the College Toolkit, an innovative product developed through a collaboration with Central Washington University, Sandbox, and WSAC. The goal of this project and the toolkit is to identify opportunities and to increase post-secondary educational attainment across Washington. If you have any questions that you don't have that emerge for later, please be sure to contact my Associate Director, Del Monnier. I'll pop his email into the chat. Now for the main event, I'll hand things over to my colleague at Sandbox, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thanks everyone for joining. We're really pleased to be here today and to present to you this project at College Toolkit. It's really a collaborative opportunity that we've had, and we want to present to you the process as well as the results of it. So without further ado, let's jump into it. In terms of the presenters today, you'll hear from me. So I'm Patricia Menjol. I'm the Director of Research and Digital Learning Initiatives at Sandbox, and I'm joined by my colleague Eliana with our Digital Learning and Product Lead, and we are joined by our colleague Emily Obert from Central Washington University. Thank you so much, Emily, for being here with us today, and I will sort of give you a sense of what we'll cover. So in terms of the meeting, we'll talk to you about the project, what it is, how we work together. We really want to give you a sense of the sort of the behind the scenes process for this, the research approach, and some of the key findings. We'll present to you the platform, the final product, and give you a bit of a sneak peek into its functionalities. And then we'll talk about what we are doing in terms of dissemination, particularly the work of Central in this area. And we'll end with some potential future opportunities before we move to Q&A. So why are we doing this project? Well, you know, it responds to a familiar but potentially worsening challenge, which is post-secondary access, ensuring access for all students, especially from underrepresented groups. And not only there are, you know, objective barriers, but there are also subjective barriers. There's increased skepticism about the value of college. And there are also changes in the labor market that are concerning prospective students about really how they might find a job after they end college. And we're thinking in particular of growing concerns around AI disruptions that may be of concern to them. So the issue here is not new, it's perennial, but it gets always compounded by new trends. And what we did is we took a behavioral approach to this project, trying to really understand the barriers and the motivators that students have, and to design a solution that reflects those barriers, meaning that addresses them, and that leverages the motivators. So that's what we tried to do at the core of this project. And we worked as a team, sort of a big consortium with WSAC, CW, Central, ourselves, and with the support of the Lumina Foundation. In terms of the timeline, I won't go through that in too much detail, but you'll have the slides as well if you are curious about the details. It was about a year project. We started with a pretty simple hypothesis, which is that digital platforms are obviously critical for today's students in terms of getting information and engaging with their thoughts about college. But really, the way the digital platforms are conceptualized and designed really matters to be sure to resonate with students, especially in a sea of online noise. So how do you make it so that students can see a value in those types of platforms? That's really our idea here was there is something that we need to know about that. And we'll therefore focus our effort on student engagement from the very start so that the design is reflecting student insights. So we started in the fall of last year with in-depth focus groups and interviews. I'll talk a bit about the method later. We spoke to students currently enrolled, non-enrolled youth, educators at CWU, as well as post-secondary stakeholders across the state of Washington. We then moved to another phase in January to talk about some creative concepts with a selected group of students to try and get some, a sounding board on some of our initial tone, messages, and ideas. And then we actually prototyped the tool and conducted some usability testing. So I'll talk to you a bit more about that. In the spring, we traveled to Washington, filmed real students and families, and we developed the platform, and we are now in the dissemination phase with the help of CWU. So the partners, you know very well, WSAC needs no introduction, Central, you obviously know them as well. We really thank them for being our pilot partner for this project. And we are actually a small company working on developing research-driven media, technology, and learning tools. And we're really focusing our work on user understanding. Lumina, of course, supported us with our generous funding and also their strategic focus on access, not just across the state, but at national level. So what we all did was quite different, which was great. We all had a different angle. So we led the research, the design, the development of the deliverables you'll see today. Our colleagues at WSAC supported both with their expertise, the content that is contained in the toolkit. They also helped us coordinate a lot of the connections in terms of outreach and research with statewide stakeholders. They connected us also with students in high school who participated in usability testing. And obviously, Central helped us with recruiting students, participants for the research and for the portraits, supported our prototype testing, hosted us with the in-person components, and now is really playing a key role in dissemination. And Lumina is supporting us financially for the entire pilot. So we wanted to give you in the next slide just a little bit of in practice, because coordinating partners is always a bit of a challenge. So we tried to put in place a light governance structure. We had a steering group with all four meeting every 6 weeks to review progress, challenges, timelines, and any emerging insights that's worth sort of, adjusting course. But then we had monthly meetings with the implementation partners, WSAC, CWU, and ourselves to really have sort of strategic and tactical decisions as the research was actually shaping the project as it was unfolding. It was important to stay connected. We had also some ad hoc meetings really on specific tasks, because we were managing different things at once, trying to do the research, the learnings from the research, planning the filming, planning the testing of the platform. It was really important to have those connections between us in a sort of very smooth way, because the key in this kind of project is that the streams are in fact overlapping. And that's really one of the challenge to be managed. Now I'll speak to you a bit about the research. So the first thing I would say is that a lot of the time, in traditional research, we get a lot of very valuable insight through traditional methods. Often we can also get some recommendations for action, but then implementation either lags because it's a separate project, maybe there isn't funding for implementation, or it just doesn't happen. So what we were really trying to do here, and a little bit of a proof of concept, is that we could try and compress in time the research to product process, meaning that we would be using both traditional academic research methods to get some of that rigorous research upfront, but then quickly implement product research methods to be able to put in front of students a tool that we believe addresses their needs and test it out in a real life context. And what I think is really interesting in this kind of approach is that we started to surface new kinds of insights, because we are not only hearing about students, so we're having an account in sort of traditional qualitative research, like a really in-depth account of their views, but then we move to also having them weigh in on very specific, tangible outputs, creative ideas. So we see what they think once they are being shown examples of tools. And then with the last step of this type of research, we get to see them in action. We observe their behavior with the prototype tool. So combining all of that helped us uncover insights that we don't think we would have uncovered with traditional research only or with product research only. And I just give you a few examples. Sometimes those insights were actually some contradictions that we had to resolve. Students wanted both more and less information because they want clarity, but no overwhelm. They want more guidance and more choice. So that can be a challenge in practice when you're designing a tool. They want to feel encouraged, but they want to hear honest input about college. And they also want to see themselves, but also not feel labeled. So they do want to see diversity as well. Don't want to be stereotyped. So we had to deal with all of that. And that's what you see here on this slide, really this comprehensive research process. So began with literature review just to really shape up our qualitative questions. We did the focus groups and the interviews to get those perceptions really in depth about students' journeys. So there we asked them really about their experience, their thoughts, their fears, like going in depth in that strong sort of like, inquiry. But we also talked through interviews and focus groups with educational staff at CWU that do outreach. So they talk to students, they see them from a different perspective, as well as access stakeholders across the state of Washington that work with students that face challenges in navigating the college process. So we got all of that rich input. We started to create some concepts, and we creatively tested them, getting feedback on messages, tone, design. And finally, we did what we call usability testing, which is about having a platform and having observational interviews with some students where we can see them interact with the platform, as well as having what we call unmoderated surveys, where we share with students a pathway to follow on the platform, and we can derive analytics from that, see where they get stuck, where they actually understand the task. It really helps in making sure the tool is working in practice. Now, I will just speak a bit about what we found before moving to the tool. So in terms of what we found, the barriers that this type of research uncovered are very multifaceted, and we try to summarize them with these two questions. So the students are asking, am I for college? And really they're expressing concerns about their personal fit with college. They are having doubts about whether they can afford college. So that remains the number one barrier that we have heard over and over again, despite the generous financial aid that is being offered in the state of Washington specifically. They are wondering if they're prepared enough academically, if they will make it, and they wonder if they belong. And that sort of, social anxiety was actually very strong in their comments. But they also ask, is college for me? And that sounds like more for us a broader systemic questions about whether the post-secondary system aligns with their goals and identity, whether it represents them, and whether the system can be trusted. So those barriers are quite multifaceted at different levels, both individual and systemic. In terms of motivators, we asked students why they want to go to college, what it represents for them. And they talked about economic security as their first motivation. They also talked about new beginnings, especially students from first-generation backgrounds that come from a challenging family or social background, wanting to try to do something different, to have a new chance. They really see it as this holistic, life-changing experience. But there's also something interesting around the shared sense of communal achievement for their family. And again, talking to underrepresented groups, first-gen students, there was a sense that this is not just for them, it's really for their entire family or community, so that there is a sense of pride emerging from their own personal choice. We also heard motivators have to do with people. Parents, siblings came up a lot, mentors, advisors that really play a role in influencing students when they think of college. And in terms of information needs, we asked them what they wanted, and I'll talk more about that in the next slide, but they want practical, specific guidance. They want to be interacting or seeing or hearing from relatable, trustworthy messengers, and they want authenticity. So in the next slide, I'll just sort of go over some of those themes that really crystallize in the creative testing and that we hope to have embodied in the tool that Lena will show you. So what we did with the creative testing is we tested concepts, tone, messages, visuals, video styles, and some of the insights that rose to the top are the following. So the first thing is, in terms of the platform's objective, students prefer empowerment over preaching, so that they feel in control of their decisions. And they really want honesty about the challenges, and they want to know about the options. They don't want to feel pressured. Maybe this is a sense that they have from society that they are feeling pressured, but that resistance to pressure was quite strong. So they want to feel they're in the driving seat. about the type of content, it connects with that, but they are talking about authenticity. And when we were testing some different types of messaging, those that feel more traditional, more salesy, more marketing, whether it's about whether the words or whether the style, the format, they don't seem to be engaging with this, but they want to have testimonials, they want stories, they want student voices so that they feel a sense of connection, people that have experienced what they have experienced so that they can trust. And something else that we haven't been able to explore as much as we want in this palette, but hopefully we can keep thinking about that, is they want to hear about flexible pathways. They want to hear there's more than the 4-year degree. There's other things they can do that are not less than the 4-year degree. And they want to learn more about those pathways and how to get there. And the final point here I'll make is that we heard a lot about the balancing of expertise with approachability in structure and tone for a digital platform that aims to support students in their decision-making. So they want to trust and have credible information, which means the tone has to be professional. They don't want it to be too casual. They don't want to have just their friend tell them how to do things. They want to trust that they are talking to or they're hearing from a knowledgeable source. But at the same time, accessibility and approachability is key, and that really translates in a challenge for design, because we have to hold these two things as priorities, and that's why we sort of use it as our red thread throughout the project. And really on that, that's what shaped our final concept, and I'll pass it on to Liana.
Thank you, Patricia. I get the exciting part now to really show you how we took all of this research and what we did to put it into practice. So what I'm going to do now is really ground us in this core idea that shaped the entire platform, which is the notion of a toolkit. And a toolkit isn't just a collection of resources. It's really something that's designed to equip people, to help them take action, make decisions, and move forward with confidence. That idea really became the backbone of this project. It didn't just influence the content, it really guided the design system itself. So as you can see here in the logo, the typography, the shapes, you see throughout the platform behave almost like tools. So they're shifting, they're also building, and they're highlighting. They gave the entire identity a sense of flexibility and movement, which really mirrors what we wanted students to experience and how we wanted them to feel and the platform to feel. We wanted it to be dynamic, but again, we wanted it to feel also, more importantly, approachable and something that is very usable. So with that philosophy in mind, let's take a look at how that supports the broader purpose of the platform. As Patricia mentioned, there are a lot of dichotomies, and one of the clearest insights from the earliest research in our work was that students and families aren't short on information. So they mentioned there's a lot of information out there, but not enough information. But as Patricia mentioned, one of the biggest things is that they're really short on clarity. So they struggle not because the content isn't out there, but it's more so because it's scattered, inconsistent, and really hard to act on. So instead of us creating another traditional information-heavy website, we created a centralized space that brings everything together. It gives students the 3 things they need most. So how to apply, how to pay, which was very important to them, and how to prepare. And more importantly, this platform was built for more than just students. We wanted to provide families with a place to learn and be able to support their children with confidence. This was especially relevant to first-generation families. We wanted to provide a space for counselors and advisors to get a trusted resource that they can point students to, and to admissions teams to help them get some consistency, a shared baseline of information that they can rely on when talking to prospective students. So in other words, we really wanted to create a platform that also creates this common language around what the college journey looks like and what the process is, so that it's consistent for students and again, easy for them to digest. Here's where everything comes together, and I do have a video that I will share with you, but I will tease the platform a little bit more first. What you'll see here is accumulation of all of that strategy, research, and design exploration. So the interface is simple, clear, and calm. Students shouldn't feel like they're navigating a maze. Again, as Patricia mentioned, they want to feel guided, but they also want to be able to explore on their own, and we wanted to make that easy for them. The layout decision here supports just that. And again, as we talked about, everything was also validated with user research along the way. There's a strong visual hierarchy. We got information from students about what they needed to see first, and a lot of that was around finances. There's intuitive navigation, and the content is more scannable and rather than being overwhelming. The goal really is to help students answer those two questions. Am I for college, and is college for me? We want them to come to the platform thinking, okay, this is possible. This is something that I can do. And a major part of that is also creating that trust and relatability and bringing that to life through storytelling. So to bring authenticity to the platform, we didn't just rely on stock content or scripted testimonials. We went to communities across Washington, met with students and families, and met them where they were at. We filmed real stories that reflect the questions, the hopes, and the challenges that students are navigating. And the videos that you will see throughout the platform are really intended to help students see themselves in that journey. So to show how all these three elements came together, I'll show and share a quick demo video. Let me just make sure. Yeah, we're all good. Okay.
This is the College Toolkit. It's my first time here, and I'm still figuring out what I might need. College hasn't always felt like the obvious path for me, so this really feels like the beginning, where I can explore what this platform can do to help me. The homepage features a fun video with real students. Definitely something worth watching. Cool. I'll come back and finish that video later. For now, let's continue exploring the page. Below the video is the toolkit itself. I can see several tools and resources here. One is focused on finances, and since that's one of my biggest concerns, I'll start there. The finances page is laid out in clear sections: types of aid, budgeting, and planning. Seeing the different options for financial aid spelled out like this is so helpful. It makes it clear that financial support isn't just one thing, and I can click through to get more details when I need them. Since I've heard of FAFSA before, and it's something I've genuinely found confusing, let's click to learn more. The FAFSA page explains things step by step. 3 interactive sections break it down into smaller pieces, so I don't get overloaded with information all at once. Scrolling down further, the process is laid out in clear steps, like deadlines, and when it makes sense to complete the WSFA instead of the FAFSA. Clicking into a step, for example, creating an FSA account, opens up guidance along with videos and other resources that walk me through it. This helps make something that can be overwhelming seem a lot more manageable. From the top menu, I'll head into the Student Stories section. Here, different students share their experiences. I think I want to see Keenan's story. Navigation tabs at the top let me jump to different parts of his journey. After that comes a video about his journey. And scrolling further reveals more about his background, the obstacles he's faced, and the support that helped him keep going. At the end of the page, there's a tips section with advice that feels practical and relatable. It reads less like a checklist and more like guidance from someone who understands what this process is like. Okay, next, let's explore the application tips page under Applying to College. This section uses flip cards to cover the different parts of the application process, like fees, forms, personal statements, test scores, interviews, this kind of thing. Flipping a card gives a clear, simple explanation, and I can move through them one at a time. It's a format that makes it easy to return later for a quick refresher, and I really like that it's interactive. I see that there's a Families page here in the menu. I think many parents who are not familiar with the application process can feel unsure as well. Okay, nice. Another video here. This one seems to be about a first-generation family who sent their daughter to college without all the finances they needed. Moving down the page, Everything families need is collected in one place, from the financial details required on applications to what to expect during the process. And there are resources and definitions as well. It's all designed so families can work through this together instead of scrambling for scattered answers. Finally, I'll open the Help tool. It offers a list of suggested topics right away, which is useful if you're not even sure what to search for. Typing in WASFA brings up a clear explanation and related links. It's the kind of support that makes the site feel approachable, even for someone completely new to the process. After exploring the toolkit, from finances and FAFSA to student stories, application tips, family resources, and finally the Help tool, I feel more confident about what to do next. I hope this resource helps you and your family explore college and how to make it work for you. No matter who you are and the challenges you may face, there is a way through this process, and College Toolkit can help.
So that was the video. We'll share a link to the platform in the chat. If you have not done so already, I would highly recommend that you explore the platform, but not just that, also watch the student stories. They're truly inspiring, and I promise I'm not just being biased. I would highly recommend that you go through all of the videos. And as this rolls out, one of the most important questions is, how are we actually engaging students with it, and how are they engaging with the platform? So this brings me to the analytics. So we're tracking a rich set of insights to really help us understand, now that the platform is out and it's a pilot, how are students using the platform and where they might need additional support. So we're seeing who's visiting, what devices they're using, and which sections are keeping their attention. We're also looking at how long they're staying on certain pages and certain sections and where they're clicking, as well as what they're searching for and how they move across the site. We're also tracking engagement with the student stories and the videos to really help us understand what's resonating most. So these analytics are going to help us continuously improve this experience, but this could also help institutions shape their outreach strategies using this information about real student behavior. Now that we've looked at the platform and how it's performing, let's talk about how we're getting it into the hands of students. So alongside CWU, we've been building a dissemination strategy to help the toolkit reach students at the right moments. This includes helping them build out social media assets, a content calendar, and providing support for CWU's admissions teams as they fold the toolkit into their recruitment and advising processes. We met with them and walked them through the platform, talked through how it can fit into campus tours and conversations, and explored real scenarios where this resource can support students directly. Now, to speak more to this and their role in the project, I'll hand it over to Emily.
Hi, everyone. I really appreciate the inclusion of Central Washington University in this conversation. My name is Emily Hobart. I'm the Associate Vice President of Marketing and Communications. And my team and I worked really closely with WSAC and Sandbox throughout this project. One of the things that we really appreciated about the approach is that it was research-based. So we all have a lot of assumptions that we make about college going, especially in the state of Washington. We all know that we have an especially large challenge related to a college going mindset, and that mindset is declining nationally, but also a larger challenge in Washington state because of the percentage of college going students from the K through 12 system into higher ed, especially directly into four-year institutions. So one of the things that we've been exploring as a marketing and communications team that works really closely with our recruiting side of the house is, how can we recruit students effectively into Central Washington University, but also how can we articulate better as an organization that is interested in helping students achieve their educational goals and career goals, that going to college has a high value for them. And when we look at it in that way, we're really thinking about not just helping students come to CWU, but also generally helping students understand that this is a really high value for them, regardless of where they go. So we really wanted to support that initiative. We have a strong and growing relationship with WSAC as well. We have several other projects that are ongoing, a lot of them related to financial aid. And so one of the things that was really interesting to us in the research portion was in talking to our students and other students as well outside of CWU, including students who might not be intending to come to college. Financial aid and the financial side of going to college was one of the main concerns, which really does match our experience on the recruiting side, as well as the new emphasis that we're really trying to put on being clear about what the resources are that we have to offer to help students. One of the other areas that we've been focusing on is trying to articulate the value of higher education related to careers and income over time. And so that actually didn't appear quite as much in the research, which was interesting to us as well. Really, the main concern was, can I afford to go to college? And then how can I navigate these really complicated systems, especially for first-gen students who, in some cases, might not have parents who speak English. And we, as a regional comprehensive, our primary task is to support students from all income levels and from all backgrounds to access higher education. So really more of an access approach to higher ed. So in saying that, one of the things that we tried to do from the very beginning is to think about how we could connect this project to the strategy that we have at CWU, not just on the recruiting side, but also on the strategic communication side. So here you can see the approach that we took to connecting this project to the ongoing initiatives that we have, the platforms that we use, and then ways that we can organically connect. We didn't have as the scope of this project to include paid advertising. And so this is all organic connections with the platforms that we currently have, as well as the outreach that was done through WSAC and the Sandbox connection. So we leveraged our organic social media platforms, mostly Facebook and Instagram, so our Meta ecosystem. And those tend to do better when there are either elements that are highly graphical and really engaging visually, or videos. So Sandbox was able to provide a package for us, and so we have a dissemination plan that runs through June of 2026. The analytics that I'll share are really only addressing the first portion of our outreach and dissemination, since this does go through the entire fiscal year this year. So we are putting out one post per month on our admissions platform. We'll also have some shares through the main CWU account. For strategic communications, we really looked at it as we have two primary audiences. We have the students and families that we're trying to reach, but also we have our higher ed and K through 12 partners that we're wanting to share this information with. And so strategic communications seemed like a more appropriate pathway for that, rather than the marketing team, since the marketing team focuses more on that recruiting portion of what we do. Strategic communications is our connection with the media and with other organizations that are similar to CWU. So Central Today is our internal communication system that also is available externally. So we do have media partners that look at our Central Today platform, and we put all of our press releases out through this system, and also just the ongoing announcements and things that we have going on internally. And in addition to that, we did a media push, and the initial dissemination of this information was really to focus on the partnership with WSAC, the funding from Lumina, and the partnership with Sandbox as well. We did see an uptick in our page views on our website after the dissemination of the media push. And that gave us a pretty clear indication that our partners externally are interested in this story. And we weren't looking at this as much in terms of impacting the recruiting side of the house, because those are two very separate audiences. And then the third strategy that we implemented is our CRM communications, so our customer relationship management system. Right now, the system that we have is really focused on recruiting. And so all of the students that we are recruiting that are in our pipeline, we have their contact information in our Slate CRM. So we have a series of emails. We've had 2 emails that have gone out, and each of the emails are based on a different population within our enrollment funnel. Perfect, thank you. So this is what it looked like, and this is all of the interactions together. So on social media, we have had 17,261 impressions, which is a good amount, considering that we're really only considering the organic impressions. And again, these are not boosted posts. They are just the connections that we have already in our platforms. Engagement, although that looks like a low number compared to the impressions, it actually isn't. It's a pretty good number. So this is people who actively engaged with the content beyond what we posted, who clicked, who shared, who liked, who did something with it. The emails, so the series of emails that we've sent out so far are through what we call junior search. And our junior search audience is rising juniors who are starting to look at university information and starting the potential application process. So they're not at the point where they're going to start actually engaging with, submitting their FAFSA, submitting their application. They're starting to collect information about universities. The next series of emails will be for senior search, so rising seniors who are actively applying currently, and the parent audience as well. And as we know, parents are very active in this process, and that is contact information that we have through our systems. And so if you look at the first series of emails, we sent out almost 5,000 emails. A little under that number were actually delivered. There are always cases where there are, bad emails or something changes and it's not able to be actually delivered. 681 of those were opened. So this is a lower open rate than the emails that we typically send out, although this is the junior population, and so they tend to not be quite as engaged as really active seniors. And 8 clicks. So again, that is the students and the populations that actively engaged with the content and then took the action to continue their search and their journey with the content. So just a quick overview of the project and how we worked with these groups. We, as I mentioned, do have a strong and growing relationship with WSAC, and this was a project that we were happy to participate in. We know that this is the beginning of a potentially larger project that would pull in a lot of other groups. And our view on a college-going mindset is all boats rise. So if we all work together on this kind of content and really encourage a college-going mindset, we end up all benefiting regardless of where the student ends up going. This initiative really was focused on increasing the college-going mindset, so less on active recruiting and more on participating in this collaborative effort to increase a college-going mindset. And we did want to connect it with the recruiting strategy to make sure that the students can follow the dots. so that if they are ready to take action, they're able to then directly connect to our recruiting side of the house. Very quickly, a few considerations. We did have some changes in executive sponsorship in the project. So if there are some groups that are interested in taking this approach and participating in this kind of project in the future, one of the things that we noticed is executive sponsorship is really, really important with these kinds of projects, and in some cases can determine the success or lack thereof of a project. And so we did need to be mindful of that shift in executive sponsorship to really make sure that this was a priority that was continuing throughout the changes that we had here at CWU. We also realized about halfway through the project that we probably hadn't made the right connections with the admissions team, especially the recruiters who have a lot of information that they need to absorb every year. And so they need to be able to sift through the information really quickly and really understand what it is that they would need to communicate to prospective students. And so if we were to do this kind of thing again, I would pull the admissions team in a lot sooner in the process to make sure that recruiting side of the house really understands how to use the tool. And then this was something that we talked about throughout the project. We didn't intend, none of us intended in the project initially to put paid media placements into the plan, but to increase the success of the dissemination of the information. We know that putting dollars behind it would increase the likelihood of people engaging with the content.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. We're about to really go to our next and final section on where this could go. And then we'll have like a few minutes for any questions you might have, and yeah, like any thoughts that emerge from this. So in terms of what we're thinking, you know, we have a lot of different ideas about what could be done. And as Emily mentioned, one of the idea is that because we are trying to encourage a college-going mindset, college-going culture, it is not institution-specific. It's really about having a sort of collective endeavor to help students see themselves in a post-secondary context in the future. So expanding to more institutions is one idea. And we are here, you could see on this slide, an idea of really enriching the platform with other participating institutions that could also be featured, that could be visualized on the map for students that are like considering their options in the state. So that's one aspect for scaling the impact of this kind of tool. Another one is really focusing on good quality multilingual access. Again, that's a critical element that was coming very strongly. So we have put in place an interim solution, but should we continue this project, we'd really want to have good quality multilingual high accessibility content, because we found that especially with the families, not so much with the students, but especially with the families, that's a critical way to encourage engagement and reduce that sense of overwhelm. In terms of increasing depth of impact, some of the things that we couldn't fit into this palette is really this carrier thinking, finding your tool, finding your field tool in order to be able to find the field of study that will then help you think about or get into the career that you would like to go to. So that's a tool that we think would be a sort of a compass for students and simplifying for them what careers are out there, what they might be interested in, how to get there through a relevant program. And another aspect that we thought was something that we should consider is to include some type of AI chatbot to offer more personalized support and uncover also in the back end. I mean, this is helpful for students, but also for the institution and for the partners, is to also understand through some of the actual data that comes in, what are some of the key questions that students are asking. And these are something that could help really understand some of their challenges, of course, within privacy context that is critical for this kind of feature, but it could really be a useful way of gaining some of that knowledge and tuning some of the features that are relevant to student needs. And so another thing that Emily mentioned is in order to really have this kind of tool meet its potential, there is a need to have expanded dissemination. Paid ads, we think, are critical. Also, potentially a non-traditional marketing campaign to really spark interest and motivate those hard-to-reach students. So those students that really are finding themselves disengaged, don't see themselves being part of the college experience. And so that would be a very targeted, focused, persona-specific kind of campaign that focuses really on motivation than just awareness, and that really tries to be emotionally resonant and surprise the students, like tell them something that they haven't thought about as well. And we think that this is something that could be, again, maximized with media buys. And to finish, should there be, any interest in joining this kind of project, like we can create a page for an institution like we did with CW, but also we can consider student profiles in different institutions, which can also be interesting to really go in depth and get into those sort of research nuggets that Emily was talking about. Some of them are confirming what we think, some are actually surfacing new insights or contradicting ideas that were already there. So that's also something that can be interesting. So we wanted to make sure that you have our contact info if you would like to explore this. But that's it for us. We would be welcoming your questions if you have any. We know this is a lot of information and we'll be sharing it, of course, after the webinar. So any questions, please let us know. We're happy to answer them in our 10 minutes that we have left.
I do see some questions. I see two Q&As. I think one of them, Patricia, I believe you answered within your last slide. It's just is the hope with the College Toolkit to expand partnership and representation. Yes, in terms of your last slide, Patricia, I see two questions around sharing the link out. Feel free to. It's open. It's available to anyone. I believe Hannah added it to the chat, but we can add it again in case it was missed.
Yes, perfect. Actually, I realized and I see those questions now. So those are yes. Definitely, you can access this, you can share this with anyone. It's open again. If you want to expand, contact us, we'll share the slides. And I also see a question about ensuring the information is relevant to foster youth. Actually, this is one of the challenges that we face, is that we have tried by recruiting students from underrepresented backgrounds, and that include people that have had experience actually with the foster system. In the case of Keenan, I believe. Is that right, Liana? Am I saying that correctly? Because I think Keenan was actually our individual that had that experience. Again, not everyone will have the experience represented, but what we try to do is to find students that many others in those underrepresented groups could connect with, could see themselves in. So they're not perfectly representative, but we tried really hard together with CW to really find those students that have a story that could resonate, in particular in light of the challenges that they've had to overcome. Yes, also, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I see this other question, which is a great question about the flexible pathways. Absolutely. Like, this is something that came out through the research and we feel like we want to explore further. So the students that are featured in the tool, they have chosen to do four-year degrees. But I think that one of the things we would want to see is how can we create a tool where different pathways are represented, and then how can we include students, and that includes students that might be pursuing a two-year degree, that might be pursuing an apprenticeship. This is something we will want to expand in the next iteration. In this case, it was really sort of encouraging that broader college culture, but that finding really made us feel like, okay, like this is something that's maybe out of scope for now, but it definitely should be a priority for any future project, because that came out quite strongly. Okay, I'm just seeing if we're missing any questions. Feel free to, reach out if you have questions to any of us really that I've presented today, and to, our colleagues at WSAC or CW for any other insights you would like to get. I think I will pass it on to Dan if you want to offer some conclusions. Dan, that would be great.
Oh, yes. So yeah, thank you, Patricia and team, for presenting this. And I just highlighting over some of these questions here. So Laura had, is the College Toolkit accessible? So Liana already posted that. Yes, it can be widely used. Right now it's customized for Central Washington. In terms of Darren, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Darren Knapp's. Yes, we're actively looking for partnerships in ways to expand the use of this college type toolkit across institutions. Naturally, there's some resource and funding requirements that would be attached to that, but definitely we're trying to leverage this so it can be used in effective ways. So yeah, thank you all for joining this presentation and really appreciate the close collaboration with Central Washington, Sandbox, and WSAC and the generous funding from Lumina to kickstart this project for us. So thank you all for attending today. Take care.
Thank you.
So